Excellent. 3 thumbs up from all of us. The next album, well, we also have 3 thumbs up. It's Mos Def, Black on Both Sides. Matt, what are the stats on this album?
Black on Both Sides by Mos Def is coming in at number 163 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 19 in 1999, number 874 of all time. It's Mos Def's highest-rated album on Best Ever Albums. It did not make Rolling Stone's list, and Mos Def is ranked number 675 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums.
All right, this album came out October 12th, 1999. He was born Dante Smith in 1973 in Brooklyn, New York. Stage name is Mos Def, and until 2011, he went by that until he legally changed his name to Yasin Bey, and his Islamic name, and retired the Mos Def moniker. The only time we covered him previously was when we talked about Black Star, the single that they did, him and Talib Kweli, Definition. That was back on episode 49. We didn't cover that full album, just the single. He has 5 solo studio albums, and this is the first one. Genres are hip-hop, alternative, or underground rap, or East Coast rap. Influences: Tribe Called Quest, Gang Starr, EPMD, Jungle Brothers, and Boogie Down Productions. Similar artists would be Black Thought, Nas, Jurassic 5, and Lupe Fiasco. The highest single is Definition, which reached 60 on the Hot 100. And his 2004 album, The New Danger, which is the follow-up to this, reached number 5 on the Billboard 200. Some fun facts. In 1994, he began his music career with a group called UTD, or Urban Thermodynamics, with his younger brother, DCQ. I assume that's a stage name, and his friend Sess. I couldn't find the younger brother's real name. In 2004, they released their only album, Manifest Destiny. As I said, in September 2011, he legally changed his name, and he actually converted to Islam in his teens. He was just more kind of taking that on as more of personality as an adult, or as part of his identity. I mean, his latest album from 2019 is pronounced Nagus, and it premiered at Art Basel in Hong Kong, and you can only hear the album at art installations around the world, or like kind of installations of different things. He has no intention of releasing an album physically or digitally. So I have no idea what that album sounds like. Well, we can talk about this, but yeah, I think he is interested in expressing himself, pushing the bounds of creativity in terms of his music. He's also an actor, although I think he's kind of retired from that as well. He has many credits to his name. And this album, from track to track, has many different producers on it. So there's no kind of one driving producer on the album. That's all I've got. So Black on Both Sides. Let's start with Matt. What did you think of this album?
Yeah. So first time I've heard this record. The only thing I knew on it was Miss Fat Booty, which was put on a mix by a friend of mine. And so as soon as that came on, I'm like, I know that song. And I like that song a lot. Like that was, there's a reason they put that on the mix. So yeah, this is in a lane of hip hop that I really respond to, I think. This is that, all those artists that you said that he was influenced by, I like all of them, right? I listening, Gang Starr, Tribe Called Quest. They just a lot of like smooth flow rapping, jazzy samples that are being done. And there's just a mood that this type of hip hop really kind of creates that it's just interesting to me, and I think that it feels, I don't know. It just feels right? Like it's the type of, like, I'd feel more comfortable rolling down my windows listening to this than I would, right, than some of the gangsta stuff. And I like a lot of the gangsta stuff too, but some of but I will say Mos Def, his flow is great. He's got some great, guest spots on here, including, of course, Busta Rhymes. I think we have to start. Busta Rhymes is already a CTS legend just for being.
Yeah, he's going on the Hall of Fame wall.
He's like on every album that we cover. You know what I mean? He's like featuring Busta Rhymes at least once. But you got a great spot by Talib Kweli here in Q-Tip, of course. That's kind of like a play off of that song. That track that's similar. to Tribe Called Quest, the song that they had then. And certainly, like, there's, with all of these acts that we've talked about that are kind of similar, there's like a socially conscious vibe to them as well. Certainly, I'm picking up on, there's certainly political themes that are being had on here, and it's just, I don't know, I don't have a ton to say, because it kind of falls in that lane of just being something that I'm like, as soon as I hear, I'm going, okay, this is hip hop that I feel more connected with, or just feel like it's more interesting. I just like these samples. I like the smooth, like the laid back kind of thing, much more than some of the aggressive, like, kind of like bravado, right? That's the stuff where I start to roll my eyes a little bit and go, okay, like after a while it gets boring, or it ages or whatever. To me, this doesn't age, right? And I think that this kind of sets it apart in a way. But so yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a little bit long. Again, it's 71 minutes. I think the first 6 tracks are fantastic. I think once Got and Umi Says kind of come on, I lose a little bit of interest there. Umi Says is an interesting song. It's not really. He's kind of more singing than anything there. It's not really like it's like a soundscape more so than like a rap song. But picking up Rock and Roll was an interesting song. That he's kind of like calling out like a variety of artists, that who's rock and roll, and then he actually does like a punk hardcore like section in there, which was kind of interesting. And that's the other thing I would say here too. The interesting thing about this is there's several songs in here that are almost like prog rap, because it's like movements, like 2 or 3 movements within a song that takes it into a different way. Like Brooklyn's a great example of that. There's like 3 different parts to that song that, it starts off with like, oh, it's going to be, he's doing the Under the Bridge, homage from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And really that's just, I thought that was going to be the entire like sample that they were going off of, or the hook. And he didn't. It was just like, that was like the intro part of the song. And then he took it in different directions, and it's like one of those things where you look up and you go, oh geez, this is the same song. I couldn't tell if it was the same song or if it morphed into another track. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I think if I listened to this record more, I listened to it. I think I got to it 3 times, and I think the more I would listen to it, I think the more I would see into it, or just kind of become more familiar with what he's doing with those songs and seeing how he's connecting those movements together. I think that would serve this well. But yeah, overall pretty positive. I could probably take 3 or 4 songs off of this, make it slim it down a little bit. But generally speaking, it was a fun listen. So thumbs up on it.
Well, Matt, you could take them off and I'd put them back on, because this is one of the best hip-hop albums of the entire 90s, I'd say. And, I mean, as much as I was not listening to rock on the radio during this period of time, because it was at a creative nadir in some ways for me in my lifetime, this is when hip-hop in all genres, maybe not Southern hip-hop, I was honest, but like all the other genres of hip-hop, what was on the radio and mainstream, but also multiple lanes, whether it be underground hip-hop or sort of multiple offshoots of what we loosely call consciousness hip-hop, but I call this lane Spit Kickers hip-hop, because I went to the Spit Kickers tour in 2000 at a lot of concert stories this week, but at the Electric Factory, when it was De La Soul, Talib Kweli, Pharaoh Monch, Biz Markie was the DJ, and Black Star was there. Which famously is, Mos Def's project, 97. I had that album. I played the hell out of that album. That Black Star album, I can't believe we didn't cover it, because I love that album.
Yeah, that's a great album.
I know. If we have a bonus episode, I'm just going to shoehorn that one in so that we cover that one.
We did a single. We did one of the, I think we did the
we did Definition.
Definition.
We did Definition, which is the hit, yeah. But like I feel like we should have covered that album. So who knows? Maybe we'll have the ability to cover that. But it's a great album, and Common was there. It was like a who's who of at some of the shows. He wasn't there when I was there, but Dave Chappelle played at some of those shows as the comedy. Eminem showed up, like early Eminem, like before, like right when Slim Shady was there. I do remember, though, the one thing that was a little bit uncomfortable was, I think it was Pharaoh Monch said, there might be a few too many white people in the audience today. And I was looking around, I was like, you know what I mean? And it was a little bit uncomfortable. But De La Soul came out and apologized and said that it was a joke, but it didn't necessarily land. So all are welcome at the Spit Kicker store. I laughed, but it was definitely one of those things. I'm going to laugh, but I think he actually means this. And that's going to kind of go into Like what I love about this album is this is an Afrocentric album thematically, right? But it's an Afrocentric album that while it has a clear point of view, it is not uninviting if you're not there. It's almost like a history lesson and a culture lesson, like a sociology lesson coming from a variety of standpoints of, I think, the consciousness, but like a sort of an Afrocentric consciousness, but not in a way that is non-inclusionary. Like I said before, more in a, I'm going to educate you. There's a I'm upset about what's going on and it's not right, but in more of a matter-of-fact way than necessarily what I guess would traditionally be called an angry way of doing things, right? And from that end of things, I think it's very interesting because it doesn't have some of the barriers, I think, that maybe some of like the 5%er stuff had for folks when it came out. I always loved it, but I could see how some folks didn't feel like they could connect, right? And like his Afrocentrism isn't sort of, I don't mean to minimize it, but sort of that like cross colors, Afrocentric like imagery. I'd say his is just more the lived experience in the moment in 1999. There's also a New Yorkness to this album that pays tribute to sort of a jazz sound that you would hear in the streets of New York, like being played in homes, an homage to the MCs that came before and in the modern era of different stuff. It really brings all of it together, and I just think from start to finish, this album has incredible beats. It has interesting themes in terms of the raps, and Mos Def himself has great flow. So the flow's great, the themes and the lyrics are great. The way it sounds, like the end rhyme and the devices of the rapping is good. The guest stars are choice and none of them phone it in. They're all good when they come in. And yeah, the storytelling of picking a variety of samples across all music to show that you are a lover of music and not just pure jazz, right? Or pure soul, right? Like he's picking stuff across the board to show that he's eclectic. And even though he writes a song about, black folks created rock and roll, right? In many ways, it can make you laugh a little bit. It doesn't come off quite like, Elvis was a hero to most, but to me, the Public Enemy take on it, right? This has just as much sort of, you need to know that this is the real story, but it kind of almost has a little bit more of a humorous edge and stuff. It is offset a little bit with samples that show like you get the feeling they're not necessarily resentful of the Rolling Stones. It's more like, for those that don't know, the Rolling Stones came from this, right? And that's just an example of the song. But I love the thematic choices. I love the flow. I love the guest spots. I love the samples. It really all comes together to me. It really makes me smile because I really think, rap during this period from 97 to about 2001, like had really stumbled on to like a level of quality that there's other periods that are solid as well, but for my personal ears, I think this is the golden age of hip hop coming all together. So really strong thumbs up. This one actually falls in the elite category of albums for me, guys, to give you an idea where it stands. So, and I think it's one of the 5 best hip hop albums that we've covered on the show. And it's kind of one of those things, once you get to top 5 and top 10, I don't like to rank them 1, 2, 3. It's more like you're in a band, right, of albums
tier.
A tier, which is where you're at. And it's in that elite tier. So there you go.
Yeah, they sample George Gershwin on this, so yeah.
Well, because these are folks that are going into the record store, right? Yeah, and they're omnivores, right?
Yeah, of music, like which I could rappers, right?
Yes, exact. Yeah. That's another exact term for it, along with the spit kickers end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love this album. It's a fantastic album. I own this album and was kind of one of the first ones I bought when I was getting into rap and in kind of the initial batch, along with that Black Star album and some Jay-Z and things like that. I echo everything you guys say. I think what stands out about this album, and I think what you respond to, Matt, as well, is that it's so musical. It's not just like straight rapping. There's a musicality to it. There's a sonorousness to his voice. He can also sing, as you pointed out. Like he's not afraid to transition from rapping to singing and back and forth. There's a warmth in this album that comes through as well, touching on the things both of you said, and I think all of that elevates it and makes it more appealing to people who don't listen to rap as much as other people, or are not familiar with the genre at all. Like, this is a good entry point into to people, or to white people probably as well, and from track to track, it's just interesting. The sampling, like you guys pointed out, the fact that there's so many different choice of samplings. It's not like obvious sampling, but they're kind of like well-known things, right? But
yeah,
they use them in such he uses them in such an interesting way that it feels fresh. It's like the perfect way to use samples, right? In the same way that Q-Tip does, and some others, like you said, John.
It's hard to like take and it's hard to take a song that you know and not make it sound gimmicky. What you have to do, you have to find an angle on it, which works and gives it new life. And I think that that's something that's done on this album a lot.
Yeah. I really like Mos Def's delivery when he raps. He's able to kind of change tempos really effortlessly. His flow is great, as you guys pointed out. His rapping, his lyrics are great too. That's what I really like. And just the kind of the ease. This album is such an easy listen. It may be long, but I feel like there's a lot in here that's worth unpacking, and there's a depth to this album as well. You know, we talked about a lot of rap at this point, a lot of 90s rap, and there's different genres of rap, or subgenres within the rap that we've talked about. Mobb Deep, also from Brooklyn, I think, right? They're very different from Mos Def, which is very different from Tupac or something like that. Like, it's all kind of we're getting a fuller scope of what rap has to offer at this point, and I think you can find something for everyone if you as the new decade is introduced as well, and it's expanding. And I agree with you, John. I think this is nostalgia, but this is like a really kind of like peak period for me of like finding rap artists that I really like, and kind of the genre exploding in a good way, and having further reach. So yeah, this is an excellent album. I would also classify this album as elite, John. I think it's that high as well. Matt, you'll really like that Black Star album. I know we listen to music just for this podcast, but if you ever get a chance, listen to that one as well.
We're going to throw it into a bonus album if we have one more. And if not, Matt, we get to the end and we don't do it, just listen to it. It'll be worth it.
But
I think it's one of those records I actually have on my Apples. Like, I just burned a bunch of stuff and I never got around to listen. And if I did listen, I listened to it like once, and I don't like it's. Yeah, I didn't give it its due.
And his next album, which I also own, he really, as an artist, kind of deviates from this album's sound. He really tries to go into different genres and do like rap, rock, and like punk rock, and like a lot of different things. I haven't listened to that album in a really long time. Honestly, it was a little like put off when I bought it, like, because back then it was like, I wanted more rapping, and it wasn't really all like that. So I don't know anything else. I know Black Star put out an album in 2019 that I did not even know about until I read the bio for him this week. But I'll be interested to check that out as well and see how it compares. But thumbs up for me on this one.